Key Club kids are here. Good to have you.
Thank you for having us. So we'll probably stay on for just a few minutes, and if there's anything that we can help you guys out with, then please let us know. We just wanted to pop in and say hi and see if we could give you guys any help with any projects you're working on.
Good. You get any idea on, have you talked to the kids about the bags?
I haven't talked to them about that yet, so do you want to do that right now?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
You know, sure. You know, what we're doing, folks, is the Kiwanis Club has been taking part in a food project drive here in Redmond for the past 6-7 months. Every other month, we collect bags of food, and we have bags that say Kiwanis Food Project. We fill the bags up and collect them every other month and take them down to the St. Vincent Food Drive area. And so far, we've collected over a ton of food. There's a great need in our community for food, as you see on the news all the time. And we're wondering if you would like to have a couple of bags so you guys could fill them up, and I'd be glad to stop by and pick them up from you. This go round we'll be picking up at the end of this month. And all it takes is a bunch of food to go in those bags and you're all set to go.
Cool. Is there any type of food that you really need, or are there like any requirements about, like, I assume it has to be like non-perishable, but any other requirements?
No, I've got, I'll have a list inside of the standard kinds of canned foods that the food shelter needs, and anything else that the people want to put in. You know, obviously not fruit or anything like that is going to spoil, but canned foods of all kinds.
Awesome. That would be great. That is, I think, something we can very easily help you out with. So anytime you want to drop the bags off at the front, we will take care of those and we'll get them filled as soon as we can.
You might get those yet today.
Cool. I'll look forward to it.
Earl, how many pounds have we done so far this year?
We've got about 2,800 pounds, I believe was the last number I saw. A little over a ton of food. I'd have to check to make sure, but I can do that right here.
Kelly, how many people are in the class today?
We have a bunch of new members today, actually. So we have all our officers are here, and then a couple old members, and then some new ones as well. So I think we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14.
14.
Great.
Yep, and we are still practicing all our social distancing and wearing masks, but we're making it work. It's going pretty well.
Great. Great to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started with the meeting. Feel free to stay on as long as you'd like and just leave when you need to. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Dave, if you would put up the flag. Thank you. All right. Feel free to join in, or you can mute, whatever you would prefer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I don't see Dan today, so John Duff, would you do the invocation for us?
Sure, I'll do my best.
Bye, guys. We're going to pop off.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to come today, and it's so great to see our key clubbers. What an opportunity to see them. We thank you for the week that we've had, the wonderful weather. Last week was just a blessing to be outside and get a taste of spring. We ask that you continue to be with this club and what our purpose is, which is to help the youth in our community. Ask these names in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, so guests today, we just saw our key clubbers. And then also our speaker is going to be, is it Lanie? Is that how you say it?
Hi, yes.
Hi. All right, so
Hi.
Lanie, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I think everybody got a little bit, little tidbit on what she's going to be talking about today. So I'm not gonna go into detail there. But Lanie, we've got just a couple more things to go over, and then we'll be ready for you to talk.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, and then of course, Linda, as always, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, so announcements today. If you guys see Jenny Garner, her birthday was on the 7th. That's all we've got for birthdays this week. And then we've got no update on Lila, but please continue to keep them in your prayers. From what I understand, she's either home or coming home, and she's going to be on hospice. So just keep that whole family in your thoughts and prayers. I know Earl already announced that our next food drive pickup is going to be on the 26th, and food will be delivered to St. Vincent's on the 27th. And then also make sure you've got on your calendar, May 1st is our flagpole clean out. And then May 6th, we are slated for our prayer breakfast, which again is going to be virtual. So stay tuned for more news on that. So does anybody else have any announcements today, or did I leave anything out? Roland.
Well, just a little update on the scholarship committee is busy reviewing, I think it's 33 applications. Carl collected these before they left for Hawaii. And so John Duff, Mike Patrick, Ann Graham, myself, and new member Amber Wilson will be reviewing these over the next few weeks. And then in when is it, John Duff? On the end of April, we'll get together and have our interview process.
Yep, that's correct.
So it's not, we had a vacancy on the committee, and Amber Wilson agreed and is excited to join the team.
Definitely excited to have her. So
Speaking of Carl, I read, and others may be aware of this, but all the Hawaiian Islands are under flood warning. So, you know, he spent the first 3 days in confinement.
Yeah, I think he called it COVID jail. Yeah, well, I'm still getting emails from him, so I think they're fine. But yeah, what a heck of a vacation, right? For all of that. Okay. All right, so I don't have any other announcements today. Does anybody else have something before we move on? All right, looks good. Okay, so next up is Happy Dollars. So what do we have to be happy for today? Earl.
I got $2 happy dollars. First of all, I'm happy to see our Key Club is up and running and that it took the time to come and visit with us. I was really glad about that. And secondly, I'm just happy that I went to the doctor this morning and I got back in time to be at the meeting, and I don't need to go back. That's always a good thing.
I'll put $5 in. I had my annual review yesterday and I get to stay on for another year. So I'm good. That's always good.
Probably pays better than this job.
Little bit. It's not as rewarding though. All right. Okay. Anybody else before we move on today? Mike.
You're muted, Mike.
You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm on.
You're live.
I'm live. I've got $5 happy. Baseball team keeps going along. Swept BYU 3 games this last week. Women's basketball took the Ducks out again and advanced to the semifinals of the Pac-12 Women's Championship Series. And then we got to spend a long weekend in Bismarck, North Dakota, and watch the grandson play hockey and the state tournament. He got several goals, and it was a great time.
Nice. All right, John Bruce, I saw your hand.
Okay, first of all, I'll put in $5. This week has kind of been like getting back to normal week. First of all, I finally got a computer. Mine went down about 2 weeks ago. Finally got through all the hiatus, and it's finally up and running, sort of, which was good news, getting back to normal. Another one was that I got to go to Jericho Tables and help for the first time in a year. It was a great fun to get back to that. Also, we walk through Hope Playground almost every day, and it's so proud to be a part of that, a small part, because it's been more well used this winter than any time. It's really been a nice thing to watch. I'm very pleased to see the Key Club back there doing their thing. It's just been a fun week, sort of getting back to normal.
Dick.
Hey there, I've got $5, one each for Ginger and Carl. Thankful that the resort that they sit upon is a few feet above sea level. So hopefully they will be safe. They do have a river coming by, which may give them some flooding, but it's close to the ocean, so hopefully they're going to be okay. I also have a happy dollar for seeing 14 Key Club members there. That's very hopeful for the future. And finally, I've got a couple dollars for the good Lord providing our pharmaceutical company how to make Zofran. Zofran, for those of you who may not know, is a tremendously effective anti-nausea medication, which is so greatly appreciated for those of us who are in end-stage renal disease. So thank you, Lord, for that.
John Duff.
So I've got a few dollars here. I guess I'll do 5. First of all, I'll start off with Oregon's baseball team went 4-0. Oregon's softball team went 4-0. Men's basketball team spanked the Beavers and won the Pac-12 championship. And Rob Mullins, athletic director for Oregon, was voted AD of the year nationally. The other cool thing was Redmond freshman football beat Bend on Thursday, 28-22. And then the varsity came back and beat Bend Saturday, 35-0 for football. So it was great to first of all get a chance to play, and secondly get a win for both those teams. So
All right, anybody else today? I don't see any more hands. Oh, Roland.
Yeah, I'll do 5. As others have mentioned, good to see the Key Club join us today briefly, and that they're getting into gear. Something else slipped my mind, but thinking about Vertrees, but I'm glad they're supposedly high above water. The other thing, glad to see Amber Wilson on the scholarship committee. And the other thing, Gail's daughter's husband had knee replacement surgery yesterday locally in Bann, a surgery center, and he was in there 8 in the morning and out at 2 o'clock. Complete knee replacement.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's it.
Alan,
I'll give $5. The other day I sent 50 to John Duff so I didn't have to do it every week. And I got to use it up. So $5 just cause life is great.
Nicole. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. Happy to be with you guys. I'll give $5.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so our joke today. So a teacher asked her students to use the word beans in a sentence. My father grows beans, said one girl. My mother cooks beans, said a little boy. A third student spoke up and said, we're all human beings. So that's your joke for today.
Hey, Rachel and everybody else, if anybody has any questions on where they stand with their happy dollars, let me know. I sent out statements a couple weeks ago. I've gotten some payments in, but let me know if you have questions.
Okay, thank you, John. All right, Lanie, the floor is all yours if you're ready.
I am ready. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
This is my first Zoom meeting in the year of COVID, so I'm glad I could get it all figured out. You guys seem like old pros, so if at any point something goes wrong, stop me and let me know. But I'm so glad to be here, and this is one of my favorite topics, which I'm sure most of you are probably not excited to talk about hearing and hearing loss. But it has just become a passion of mine over the years, and I love to educate our beautiful community on the importance of having your hearing tested annually. I think there's a lot of things that kind of get swept aside when it comes to the conversation about hearing and hearing loss. So I am here to educate. I am here to share what I know with all of you. So please chime in. Anytime I've ever done this, I've talked to Kiwanis and Rotary, and I love for it to be more of an open conversation. That's what I do with my patients when they come in. So I don't totally know how it works on here, but I guess you just unmute yourself if you want to talk, and then I can hear you. I realize I should probably know more about how this works, but I'm still learning. So anyway, my name is Lanie Tandy. I am the hearing specialist here at All American Hearing in Redmond. And my background is in speech and hearing sciences and communication disorders. So I went to school to become a speech language pathologist, and honestly kind of stumbled into this field of hearing aids and treating hearing loss. And I've been doing it for almost 8 years. My family's here in Central Oregon. So I live in Sisters. I have 2 little boys. And I'm truly passionate about what I do. So I love that I get to really look forward to getting up and coming to work every day. So one of the things that I always love to talk about or start with is the importance of having your hearing tested. So really quick, just chime in with a yes, I guess. Does anybody wear hearing aids or know of anyone who wears hearing aids? Do I have some hearing aid users out there? Okay, good. So then I'll get some good input from you, I'm sure. But you know, one of the things that a lot of my patients say when they come in for a hearing test is that they've noticed that they can hear okay, but that they can't understand. So it's part of the reason why they've put off coming in, because they'll say, well, I don't really know why I'm here. I can hear the dogs barking from down the street, or I can hear a train coming from 2 miles away. So it's kind of, you know, they'll say, I really feel like I can hear fine, but a lot of times I'll misunderstand what's being said. And that is exactly the time that you should be coming in to have your hearing tested. That is a classic symptom of a high frequency hearing loss, which is the most common type of hearing loss that we see. So the reason I like to focus these more on like why we need to have our hearing tested and why we need to have our hearing tested early. So I think that a lot of people think that you can put off coming in for a hearing test until you're really struggling day to day. Like you're having a hard time getting through conversations. You're having a hard time getting through meetings like this. You're constantly asking people for repetition. By the time you've reached that point, you are somewhere between 5 and 10 years too late, which I know seems probably really hard to believe. But the symptoms of hearing loss are very, very subtle at first. So one of the reasons that or the biggest reason why we suggest that you come in regularly and you come in right away is because of something called auditory deprivation. So most people that I talk to when they come into my office say, they've reached that point where they're having a hard time. It's finally affecting their life. Their spouse, their children are frustrated. Usually someone else has urged them to come in for a hearing test. And they come in and they're ready to have their hearing tested. And they say, I'm at a point now where I'm ready to wear hearing aids. Like, let's fix the problem. And what hardly anyone seems to realize is that it's not that simple. So you can't just wait until you feel like you're ready, come in, get fit with hearing aids, and all of a sudden you hear like you did when you were in your 20s. And that's because of this term, auditory deprivation. So your hearing, like anything else in your body, if you don't use it, you lose it. There are 3 stages to hearing. And normally during these, I have all sorts of visual aids, so bear with me here. But the sound waves, when they enter your ear, they go through your ear canal, they vibrate your eardrum, they move the ossicles in the middle ear, and then they vibrate the fluid that stimulates the cochlea. And that's that hearing nerve. That, for most hearing loss, is what's going to get damaged. So over time, as your ears are exposed to all sorts of noise, that cochlea is stimulated less and less and less. And in the very beginning, you're going to notice things like you'll hear everything, but you'll misunderstand one word. And then you'll hear most of the sentence, but you'll misunderstand the beginning or the end. And then you'll get to the point where someone's talking and you can hear them, but it sounds like they're mumbling, or like they have mush in their mouth, or like their mouth is full of food, especially if you're in the presence of background noise. And what's happening is that cochlea is receiving less and less stimulation over time. So eventually, like any other muscle in your body, if you take your arm and you tie your arm up for 5 years and you don't use those muscles, they atrophy, right? And when we untie them, while it's still functioning, it's not nearly as strong as our other arm that's been working all day, every day for the last 5 years. The same thing happens to those nerves in the cochlea. So when you come in and you've been experiencing hearing loss for 5 years or for 10 years, what happens is we'll put you in the booth, we'll bring all of your test results up within normal limits, and we'll figure out something called a speech discrimination score. And that tells me your brain's ability to process the sound that's coming in. So auditory deprivation is the inability to process certain speech sounds. And that will happen to every single person who has hearing loss over time. And what that means is that even though we can correct the hearing loss with the very best set of hearing aids available, your brain is only capable of processing so much. And this is this missing link that I have just become so passionate about educating people on, because the very first thing that most people say to me is, wow, I had no idea. I didn't realize this was something that was irreversible. I didn't realize that damage was being done, that there wasn't something we could do about, or do anything about. So auditory deprivation, it's real. Johns Hopkins first published a study on it almost 10 years ago. And it's the one thing that all of my patients tell me, I wish someone would have told me sooner, and I wish I would have known. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that someone comes in for a hearing test and they are just starting to notice symptoms of hearing loss, or they're not starting to notice symptoms, but their spouse is starting to notice. So they decided to come in, they wanted to see where their hearing loss was. We find a hearing loss, so they're not hearing the high frequencies well. While they're in the booth, we bring all of those test results up into normal limits, and we find that they have 96% speech discrimination, or 100% speech discrimination. That means that when we bring all of those test results up within normal limits, their brain still recognizes all of those speech sounds and processes them with no problem at all. That's like best case scenario. If I could get my hands on everyone with hearing loss while they were still at that point, we wouldn't see the kind of issues we see. We wouldn't see the people who have hearing aids, but they put them in the drawer, or they have hearing aids and they say that they still don't understand what people are saying. That's because their own processing ability is still fantastic. We just need to bring that sound up to the level that it needs to be at in order for them to hear it. So that's like best case scenario. That's the person who's really proactive about coming in and having their hearing tested, maybe even before they're noticing symptoms. This is why we recommend that everyone over the age of 60 have their hearing tested annually. Let's take a look at the other end of the spectrum. So let's look at the gentleman who's noticed hearing loss for many, many years, but hasn't felt like it was bad enough to do anything, doesn't feel like they're struggling. The classic, I can still get by. I hear that a lot. I'm here because I'm not hearing well, but I've still been able to get by for all these years. So maybe they finally decide to come in on their own. Maybe it's their wife that's really encouraging them or saying, I'm so frustrated. I'm tired of not being heard. You're going in to get your hearing tested. Whatever it may be, they come in, they've been struggling for a really long time. And that can be 5 years, that can be 15 years. We go through all the testing. I find their hearing loss, bring all those levels up within normal limits. And that patient understands 64% of those words. That means that auditory deprivation has set in. They have lost the ability to process 36% of speech sounds because areas in the cochlea have atrophied and they're no longer functioning. So that means that we could take the exact same set of hearing aids that we put on patient A and we can put them on patient B, and best case scenario, they're going to understand 64%. If that person were to have come in at the very first sign of hearing loss, we would have been able to preserve that 100% discrimination score. So that speech understanding is not something that you can ever get back. Once you lose it, it's gone forever. What we can do at that point is prevent it from continuing to get worse. So we can hold that 64% stable by wearing hearing aids every day. And that's where one of the things that I love the most about my job is something called oral rehab. And it's actually retraining the brain to process some of these speech sounds. So our goal is to get that patient up to 64% understanding. Most of the time, they're below half of that when we start. So they're going to be understanding like 30% on their own. So the first couple months of wearing hearing aids is some exercises. I have a whole list of things that you do at home, things that we do here at the office to get up to that 64% understanding. But what is so important for everyone to understand and take away from this conversation is that when you come in for a hearing test, we can only use what you have left. And that number gets worse and worse and worse and lower and lower and lower every day that you ignore your hearing loss. So, you know, like I said, I have had far too many people sit across the table from me with tears in their eyes saying, I didn't know, and I wish I would have, that I've become so passionate about doing this and educating people on why you should come in and why you should come in right away. And I realize that coming in to have your hearing tested, I don't think anyone is ever excited to walk through my doors. They're never excited to sit down in my office and have the conversation with me and have their hearing tested and learn what they're going to learn and be fit with their first set of hearing aids. But I can promise you that no one ever regrets it. And I realize it's very intimidating and it's something that most people put off for many years. And most people have either had a bad experience somewhere. This is an industry that has been known for, I would say, not always being honest, especially years ago. It's an industry that you hear, everybody knows someone, I guarantee you, who has a pair of hearing aids that are in the drawer, has a pair of hearing aids that squeal, has a pair of hearing aids that they take out every time they walk into a noisy room. So there are far more bad stories about hearing aids out there than there are good, I think, from what I've heard. And there's lots of reasons for that. I think one of them is lack of educating our patients. So if someone comes into my office, one of the first things that I'll talk about is this auditory deprivation, and I will make it very clear. You know, I hear a lot of times people will say, my brother spent $7,000 on hearing aids and he still can't hear. Like, who's heard that story? Raise your hand. I should see all hands because I think that everyone's heard that. And if I don't help my patient to understand that, yes, you are spending it's an investment, right? Hearing aids can be an investment. So you are going to spend $6,000 on a set of hearing aids that have great noise management, but you're still going to miss 25% of what people say. If I explain that to them and I help them to understand their hearing loss, and I help them to understand how they can use other understanding cues, how they can use a little bit of lip reading, how they can use communication strategies to fill in that gap, they're going to have really clear expectations of their hearing aids. If I say, if I don't go over that with them and I say, here are a set of hearing aids you're going to hear better, and they're still missing 25%, they're going to be a little confused. They're going to feel like their hearing aids aren't working well. So educating people on their hearing loss and what they can expect is a huge part of my job, and it's a really important piece of the puzzle. And there's a big lack of education out there. So, and then the other question that I get all the time is, how much do hearing aids cost? And there is a really big range when it comes to the cost of devices. Like here at our office, we have hearing aids that are basic hearing aids that are designed for one-on-one conversations that are in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. And then we have hearing aids that are fully automatic, that will automatically adjust as you go into different environments where you don't have to touch buttons. They'll pair to your smartphone. They have things like fall detection built into them. And those are anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 a set. So the very first thing that I always like to get out of the way and talk about when someone comes in is my job is to figure out what your hearing loss is, what your lifestyle is, but then also what kind of a budget we're working with. And I will do the very best that I can within each of those different categories. And that's where it gets fun. I don't ever want anyone to think that because they don't have $4,000 in their hearing aid budget that they shouldn't come in for a hearing test, because there's a lot that we can do with less than that. So I know typically, I think I was told I had 30 minutes to fill here, but I know that in the past, whenever I've done this, there's a lot of questions and there's usually a lot of engagement. So I always like to leave some extra time for that. So throw it at me. What questions do you have? What stories have you heard? What have you heard that you want me to clear up? I'm super honest. That's one thing you can always expect from me, is complete and utter honesty. But I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Lanie, this is Alan Unger. Say, what does Medicare cost? What does Medicare cover, just so I can know? Like
plan for that. Medicare covers nothing, which is so frustrating and a little bit infuriating. We know that untreated hearing loss leads to early onset Alzheimer's and dementia. That has been proven over and over and over again in the last decade. Medicare does not cover anything. Some supplements to Medicare, I'm like I said, I'm a straight shooter here, so I'm gonna be really honest. Some supplements to Medicare will have a hearing aid benefit. That is not a benefit. They don't pay anything toward hearing aids, but what they will do is you're eligible for a discount plan through a third party. So you can get the hearing aids at a discounted price, and they do that by removing the service and warranty that comes along with the hearing aids if you were to just walk into an office like mine without any type of an insurance benefit. So for example, like our hearing aids come with 3-year warranty and 3 years of service. If you have a Medicare plan that has this like discount hearing aid plan, it's the same hearing aid, but it comes with like 4 office visits and a 1-year limited warranty. So I work with those programs a lot. I have a lot of patients who choose to go that route. And then I have a lot of patients who say, well, I really want the service, that comes along with the hearing aids, and I'd rather go, not through my insurance. So that's specific to everybody. But most plans are generally like, if you see that your supplement to Medicare has a hearing aid benefit, look into it before you sign up for it, because oftentimes it's this discount plan and people will come in and say, but it says benefit, and then we'll check them and they don't actually pay anything. But you are eligible to receive the hearing aids with just kind of the bare minimum. Yes.
I am your poster child. I
Tell me more.
Symptoms. I'm down to like 55% discrimination and all that. But they do make a lot of difference. Otherwise, I'd have more trouble than I do. I do have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
I'm at the point where I'm getting close to where that 40% line is. So
Yeah.
that maybe even a cochlear implant is something that I should look at some point in the future. Do you have see any research about what they're doing with cochlear implanting to perhaps improve over what they have now, where you have that big old hunk on the side of your head walking around?
As far as like cosmetically, the big old piece on the side of your head is getting a little bit smaller, but it's always going to be just the way that a cochlear implant works. There's no way around having like the transmitter as a magnet on the back of your head. You know, I don't obviously do cochlear implants. I don't have much experience with them. One of the things that I always want to do a lot of like work on before we refer for a cochlear implant is, what is your understanding ability and what is your current understanding with your hearing aids? So if you're frustrated because with your hearing aids you're not hearing well, one of the things we do a lot in our office is what's called verified best speech clarity. So we'll compare, we'll look, you know, let's say we get you in the booth and you have, let's say you have 40% speech discrimination in the booth. We know you're capable of processing 40%. Then we repeat that testing with your hearing aids in. And this is what we do with our patients every year. We repeat that hearing or that test with your hearing aids in and you're understanding like 24%. Well, that tells me that we can do a lot better with just the hearing aids in your ears. So if testing like that has been done and we're finding that you're at your discrimination target is just really low, then that's where having like an artificial cochlea would absolutely be a conversation that you should have. Typically, and this is very like, it's very hard for me to answer questions like that without looking at your audiogram, without looking at your understanding scores, what your potential is versus how you're performing with your hearing aids. Typically, we have quite a bit to work with if you're able to follow a conversation over a computer like this.
Okay. I have another question.
Any information?
I'm due to get another set of hearing aids.
Yeah.
What do I do with the old ones? Is there a place like the Lions that collect glasses? Is there a place we can take your hearing aids and donate them so someone else could use them?
Yeah, you can. So they use, I don't think that a lot of those programs are up and running right now. Our favorite, so we work with, I can order, like some people will come in and say, I've been wearing an Oticon forever. That's what I'm comfortable with. And we can always try that route. We primarily fit Starkey Hearing Technologies, which are the only ones manufactured in the United States. They have something called the Starkey Hearing Foundation. And they will actually, whether our patients utilize like a trade-in. So I have a lot of people who every couple of years want to trade their hearing aids in for whatever's new, or that you can just donate them. But they go to the foundation and all year long, Starkey is constantly on missions fitting people all over the world who otherwise wouldn't be able to get help for their hearing. So it's a really neat program. You can go online. So we take them here. You can take them to Lions. I don't think Lions is doing it anymore. We used to be a fitting, we used to actually fit for the Lions Club years ago. And I don't believe that their hearing program is still up and running. But I love the Starkey Hearing Foundation and I always will. So that's my top pick. But yes, you absolutely can. Any other questions?
I have another one.
Yes.
You said, the cochlear gets frozen, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
It stops functioning. Do you know of any research where they're trying to rehabilitate the cochlear or the little hairs?
The hairs.
Here?
Not at this time. Nope. It's a very, very specific group of very, very small nerves. And to try and target that, the biggest issue has been trying to target and isolate them.
Now, how many kids do you see come through your program?
So I am licensed to fit 18 and older.
18 and older. Okay.
So zero.
Zero. Okay.
For me.
Okay.
And then I think, Alan, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to ask how many people read lips and don't know it, that they're doing it?
Everybody. And when COVID happened, that's when everybody really started to realize it, when they had masks on all of a sudden. So A lot of people will tell you I don't read lips, but then as soon as I put a paper over my mouth and I give them the same list of words that I did without the paper, they'll get like half of them wrong. So it's not necessarily that you lip read, in that if all of a sudden I took my voice away and continued to do this, you would be able to pick up on everything that I'm saying, but you get speech cues and you get facial cues. So it's what will help you differentiate between like a P or a B, when otherwise they sound exactly the same if you're not able to look at the mouth. So everyone that has a high frequency hearing loss uses some type of speech cues. And I cannot tell you, it's gotten to the point where it's almost a little bit comical. So many people over the last year, since masks have become required, have come in and been like, well, I didn't think that I was reading lips before, but now that I can't see lips anymore, I'm really having a hard time hearing. So it's been funny how many people have come in with the exact same complaint. So you don't necessarily lip read, but you do use those facial cues to help fill in those blanks that high frequency hearing loss is taking away. So think of that type of hearing loss as like an eraser, and you're going in and you're erasing letters from words and erasing words from sentences. And that's why it's not that you can't, it's not like the volume gets turned off. It's just that you're missing so much that your brain is working 10 times as hard as it should be to try to piece everything together and keep up with the conversation.
I'd just like to follow up on one of the questions John had here about kids. Even though you may not see them until they're 18, we know there's a lot of youngsters who have hearing issues.
Absolutely.
Where would you go to deal with that if you were a parent who had suspected a hearing loss in a youngster?
Yep, I almost always refer to Central Oregon Audiology. There's one here in Redmond and then one in Bend also.
So I'll rephrase my question. How many young adults do you see 18 to say 25?
More and more every year, which is interesting. I think a lot of people think about like hearing aid clinics like this, like our primary patient base being over the age of like 70, 75, 80. And I would say, oh gosh, I've never actually thought about it like this before, but I would say at least 30 to 40% of my patients are like under the age of 55.
Wow.
So a lot of people in their 30s, a lot in their 40s. And I've seen an increase in people coming in sooner rather than later, just in the last couple of years as more of this research is coming out. And I'm always like thrilled. It excites me so much to see younger people in who are starting to notice the hearing loss, and they say, I watched what happened to my dad and I don't want that to be me. So I'm going to come in now and at least have a baseline done, at least figure out where we are. So the best advice I have for anyone is the moment that you suspect that maybe you're not hearing as well as you used to be, make an appointment and get your hearing tested.
And where are you?
I am
Redmond, Ben?
I'm in Redmond.
Okay.
I'm over on the garden center side of Fred Meyer. There's those buildings along the outer edge of that parking lot.
Yeah.
Over by like the Thai restaurant, Step and Spine Physical Therapy, Mo's Egg House.
Okay.
So I'm tucked back here in the corner.
Okay.
Yes, Dave.
Lanie, what are your education credentials for your job?
So I my degree is in the speech and hearing sciences, and then I went through about a year and a half licensing program through the state of Oregon to become a licensed hearing instrument specialist.
You're muted, Roland.
How's that? That better? Maybe you like me better if you can't hear me. But Lanie, I had my hearing tested a few years ago, and it's I know it's not good. But when I did the hearing test there, afterwards they told me they can't help me. So what comes to mind?
That some not nice things come to mind. I can't ever imagine telling. So I'll tell you, like, the only time that you should ever be told that you cannot be helped by someone who fits hearing aids should be if you are functionally deaf, meaning we turn the audiometer up as loud as it goes and you don't respond, which obviously if you're in a Zoom call right now, that's not the case for you. Or you have hearing that falls completely within normal limits. But I can't think of a reason. Do you remember why they told you that?
No, this was at Costco. And
yeah.
I had mentioned that trouble hearing with background noise and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It did mention that high frequency, there was a sharp drop off.
That's why. So that is specifically to Costco. So I was just going to say, you probably have a very sharp drop, probably around like 4,000 to 6,000 hertz. Their hearing aids aren't capable of amplifying out past that. So if you don't have a hearing loss prior to those frequencies, there's nothing that they can do to help you. And that's why you struggle in background noise, I'm guessing, because your hearing is probably normal in those lower frequencies where ambient background noise is. So you actually hear well where like all that crowd noise is in a restaurant, but then with those speech frequencies is where your hearing loss like drops off probably really suddenly. So that would be why Costco would tell you that.
So your testing process would be better than that?
The testing process, yes, is going to be more specific. And then just what I can do something with that hearing loss.
Thank you.
Anybody else had an experience with the hearing test where they were told that they couldn't be helped, or? Because unfortunately, that's not the first time that I've heard that. A lot of people have come in and said, I've had my hearing tested before. They told me that they couldn't do anything about it. And most people are coming from Costco, which, don't get me wrong, I love Costco. I feed my family from Costco. Don't love Costco for hearing help.
Lanie?
Yes.
Dick Keen here.
Hi.
I share with the group that there is a kind of hearing loss which cannot be helped and is not due to lack of sophistication on the part of your hearing loss helper. About a year ago now, at 9:15 in the morning, while lying in bed, I had sudden and complete loss of hearing on the left side only. I had what is technically a CVA, cerebral vascular accident, commonly known as stroke, limited to a little bitty artery, which is the only artery to the cochlea. And once you lose that, you lose the cochlea, and that cannot be helped by any kind of hearing aid at all. And it's a sudden and profound hearing loss, generally unilateral.
And that is the perfect example of what I just said, where that ear is considered functionally deaf. We turn the audiometer up as loud as it goes, and you're still not responding. So that would be an ear that we couldn't fit that ear, but what we would fit a typical patient with who has that hearing loss is what's called a bicross system, where we actually put a hearing aid on that ear, but we transmit the sound from that side over to the working ear. And that is our go-to fitting for a unilateral loss like that.
Well, thank you very much for coming and visiting with us today.
Yes, I am happy to. Normally, I have my cards that I hand out with my email address on them and my phone number. I don't know how I do that this way, but if anybody has any more questions, talking about hearing loss is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to ease concerns. I'd love to see, we don't charge anything for hearing tests. So if anybody wants to come in to get a baseline, if you have hearing aids and you want to make sure that you're meeting your discrimination targets, it's a really quick test. It's one of my favorite ones to do. I truly love being able to say, yes, you're hearing as well as you should be. Go on. But if not, then there's always something we can do about it.
I was just going to say the last time I remember getting a hearing test was grade school.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was part of, you had your eye test done there, you had your some physical things done there, and you had a hearing test done at least once a year. So, and I want to say 6th grade was the last one I had. So.
And it should happen more often than that. So.
How often should it happen?
Come on in. After the age, so if they say after the age of 60. I'm going to argue that I think it should be after the age of 50. Over the age of 50, you should have your hearing tested annually. If we're seeing you on like the lower side of normal, if you're like up well within the normal limits, I'll say like every 2 or 3 years come in, or if you're starting to notice something. But I think everyone should have a hearing test by the age of 50. Or sooner if you're noticing symptoms.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Lanie. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the meeting, but if anybody has any further questions, like Lanie said, please feel free to reach out. And all right, so our thought for today before we say goodbye, this comes from Roland. Thank you. And this is a quote from Arnold Palmer. He says, "The road to success is always under construction." All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Those on the nominating committee, if you'd stay online,